I just want to exceed what my genetic potential is. I mean, I think genetically I'm probably the guy who's wired to make it to his 80s. So I use 100 as a mental model because I can picture how old my kids will be when I'm 100 and how old their kids will be and probably how old their kids' will be. And I've mapped all this out, not because I have any belief that I have some control over this or that, you know, somehow like the world is, you know, predetermined in that way, but it allows me to think about how to reverse engineer this problem. So, you know, you talked about sort of the Centenarian Olympics, which is this idea that I've developed about a year ago as a way to kind of communicate this to my patients, which says, you know, so back up for a second. 4 years ago, I basically just stopped doing competitive sports. You know, I stopped, you know, doing like bike races where, you know, like you're trying to like win a little trophy or a medal, or swim races or all these sorts of things. And, you know, I sort of felt a bit of a void in my life when I stopped in 2015, which was, this is the first time in my life since I was 13. So that's almost 30 years where I don't have a goal. Like there's not a specific purpose that's taking me to the gym to do this thing, to train for this event.
Right.
And what I realized is actually I have a much more important goal than I've ever thought of before, because those other goals were quite arbitrary. Like how fast can you ride 40 kilometers on your bike, or, you know, can you swim to Catalina Island? Those are interesting, but quite arbitrary. But a much more interesting goal to me is how could I be the most kick-ass 100-year-old to make sure that, you know, when my kids are in their 60s and their kids are in their 30s and their kids are the age of my kids today, what is the life that I imagine living? And I mapped out 18 things that I need to be able to do physically to feel fulfilled. I need to be able to carry 4 bags of groceries up a flight of stairs. 4 bags of groceries up 4 flights of stairs. I need to be able to get up off the floor using a single point of support. And why do I realize that? Because I realize, like, my boys who are 2 and 5, we play on the floor a lot. Like we're playing with stuff, and I have to come to their world.
Yeah.
They're not going to come sit at the table and play with me, right? I have to get on their floor and play with their toys there. And I love doing that. But you have to be able to get up after doing that. And I mean, how many 100-year-olds do you see that can actually stand up on their own with a single point of support? I have to be able to put a 30-pound bag in an overhead compartment of an airplane. In other words, I want to be able to like travel through an airport and actually put my stuff away. Yeah. And I noticed, I travel a lot, and I noticed how many people can't actually put their bag up or take their bag down. And I just don't want to be that guy. I want to be able to pull myself out of a swimming pool without stairs. So you got to be able to like lift yourself up. So anyway, I've got 18 of these things. Impressive. And look, they're subject to change. I'm sure I'm going to think of other things. But they basically come down to a level of physical exertion that I want to be able to have. And by the way, there's a lot of things I'm not going to be able to do when I'm 100 that I can do now. You know, before we started this, I was showing you some pictures of places in Hawaii where we're hunting, and some of the terrain is the most complicated terrain in the history of the world. I mean, will I be able to hunt like that when I'm 100? Probably not. And I'm willing to accept certain things. But these 18 things became my bottom line. Like, I want these things. And now, even though I'm only 46, that gives me 54 years to train to do that. And each of these things then projects back into milestones. So if you want to be able to do those things I just described when you're 100, you do what's called backcasting. Well, what do you need to be able to do when you're 90? And then what do you need to be able to do when you're 70 and 60 and 50? So right now I'm very fixated on what the 50-year-old version needs to be able to do to make sure I hit those 18 things when I'm 100. And so that becomes the Centenarian Olympics, is this event that I'm training for. So I now do have an event in life, and it requires a totally different way of training. And it's totally foreign to me. Well, it's a much, much greater emphasis on stability, which gets virtually no attention. So mobility is the big buzzword. Everybody wants to talk about mobility this, mobility that, flexibility, balance. All of those things matter, and they're all a subset of stability. But stability is the thing that most of us have lost generally by the time we're 5.